Welcome back to our tutorial on web development. Web development involves a variety of tools that helps developers design, code, test, and optimize websites and web applications. We'll be looking at the basic tools for web development, the tools that are needed to build a complete website. And in our previous class, we looked at what web development is. We looked at some basic components of web development, or what comprises of a website, and we made mention of things like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Previously, we explained that HTML stands for the hypertext markup language, the CSS stands for the cascading style sheet, and JavaScript is a programming language that helps to render or gives an interactive animation to our website.
Okay, and some of the tools we are considering, we have the text editor or the IDE. An IDE is an integrated development environment. It's a software application that helps developers or programmers to develop software code efficiently. It also helps to increase developer productivity by combining capabilities such as software editing, building, testing, and packaging in an easy-to-use application. So what an IDE is just an environment where you'll be able to write your code, you'll be able to edit them, debug them, and possibly save them for use or for future editing. So a very good example of an IDE, we have the Visual Studio Code. We also have the Sublime Text and we have the Notepad++. And the next on our list of tools, we have the web browser. The web browser is a tool in web development that helps to render a visual representation of whatever codes we have written, whatever we have designed, whatever we have built with the code editor or the IDE. So the function of the web browser is to render it to visuals, a visual representation of what we have done. So you can basically define a web browser as an essential tool in web development or in web development process that provides a means to visualize, debug, and optimize websites and web applications. Now we will proceed to showing how the tools we have mentioned earlier looks like, and probably I will show you how you can use them and what we mean by virtual representation for the web browser, and also the text editor, or how we can write our codes in the text editor and how we can basically render it in the browser.
All right, let's dive into the usage of the tools as I mentioned a few seconds ago. So we have the Google Chrome, which is one of the tools we mentioned earlier as one of our basic tools for web development. We have the Google Chrome here as the browser, and then we have the Visual Studio Code. So if I go ahead and open Visual Studio Codes, it's open an environment for me to be able to work effectively. So if I click on files here, I can decide to open a folder where I want to work, or I can just simply click on file and open a new file here. So I will type the name of the file. I'll just say start, or let's say we'll call it index.html. So if we have, it opens an environment where we want to save it to. But if we have a folder where we have already created, let's say on our documents or on desktop, and we want to use it to work, right? We necessarily don't need to come and create a file and start looking for where to save them. We'll simply come and click on files, then we open folder. So we will now look for the folder we want to open. I have a folder called, we have a folder called TechCraft Tutorials here. I'll click on it. It's an empty folder. There's no project on it. So I'll just simply click on it, and then I'll click on the open button. It opens the environment where I'll be able to efficiently or effectively write my code. So I can just click on this button here, which is for creating new file, or I can right click the empty space by the left hand side here, and I'll click on new file. So if I save this to the index.html, so we will come here. If I come here and open the folder, you will see the file here, right? So if I double click it, it's basically going to open in a browser here. It's going to open in a browser where our visuals for whatever codes we'll be writing here will be interpreted. Meanwhile, we don't have any code in our code here. So, but when you come to the web browser, it completely becomes empty because there is no code written here to be visualized by our browser. So it becomes empty. So in subsequent times, we'll be writing our codes on any page. The name must not be index.html. It can be anything. I can name it pages.html. But the most important thing is that when you are writing your HTML code, which is the basic structure of your website, the extension must end with .html. So it can be any name, but it must end with .html to enable the web browser as our tool to interpret it as a web page. So that is just it. If I generate the basic structure of HTML code and I come and write, let's say heading, and I say hello world, this is written in our pages. So if I come back to this place, open it, you will see hello world boldly written on our web page here. So you don't have to worry yourself how we generated this code. In our next class, we will start the basic structure of HTML. We'll look at how this is formed, what comprises of the structure of HTML, and all of that. So, but for the purpose of this tutorial, this particular episode, I just wanted to understand that the tools I mentioned earlier they are the one that basically help us to write the structure of our codes and style them and basically add animation to it. And the code editor helps us to write the code, and the browser helps us to render the visuals. So if you have a browser that you want to use, you can simply right click on the web page you want, or the HTML file you want to visualize on your browser. You come to open with, then you select it. So in my own case, Google Chrome is the default browser. So anytime I double click on this HTML file, it opens it and takes me to visualize whatever I have written on the HTML codes of the file. So in our next class, we'll look at the basic structure of HTML. We'll look at things like tags. We'll look at attributes, elements. Then we'll write HTML codes and use some of the features of HTML to build our first web page. Thank you.